All right, welcome into another episode of the Flop Sports Podcast. This is episode 25. I am Preston.
And I am Daniel. We will be right back after, as Preston calls it, a short musical interlude. Alright, guys, we are back. We're gonna skip the big three today, jump right into the NFL, and then get into the NBA playoffs. So, first up, NFL. Antonio Brown cannot stop trashing former teammates. Why is he being so mean?
Why you gotta be so mean? No, I don't know. I mean, he got his trade and he's gone now. But it seems like he has to like keep going back into the bank, whether it's Big Ben or Juju or whoever else it is. I think, Antonio Brown just something about Big Ben really rubbed him the wrong way. And now, even if you defend Big Ben, you've got problems with Antonio now. So I think I think it's only going to pick up as we get into the season. So we'll see what happens there.
Can't wait. Well, speaking of more drama and issues, let's talk John Gruden. Apparently doesn't trust his scouts.
I was seeing this, and I actually looked at kind of some of the stuff that was being said about it, and they said it's not uncommon for only a select few people to actually see the draft board and to be in the draft room. But I don't think I've seen, or I don't think people have seen, just calling all your scouts off, days before the draft. So it is a little, uncharacteristic of what you normally see. But I mean, you got John Gruden, you got Mike Mayock, their new GM. So I think maybe they just, they're like, all right, we know what we want. We just don't need our scouts anymore.
Yeah, it definitely could be a little bit of an overreaction, but at the very least, John Gruden is like the Kyrie Irving of the NFL. He always brings us good things to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Bleacher Report did a detailed article on Aaron Rodgers and his now ex-coach McCarthy, essentially making the case that Aaron Rodgers was undermining McCarthy throughout their tenure. What do you think about this? Was that true? It also kind of lines out the case for McCarthy just not being that intelligent of a football coach and not really giving the game his all. Your thoughts?
I mean, I've always kind of thought that, because I mean, when you watch the Packers play, you're not like, oh my gosh, what a great play call. No, you're thinking oh wow, look what Aaron Rodgers just did. It was always Aaron Rodgers just creating something out of nothing. And I mean, I think for a long time this Packers it's been a slow decline, only because Aaron Rodgers wouldn't let it be a complete drop off.
Uh-huh.
You're from the talent that they brought in through the draft or through free agency to the play calling actually during the season. I don't think I've seen this Packers team get better since that Super Bowl run that they went on. They've just continued to decline. I remember after that Super Bowl win, everyone was like, "Oh, the next dynasty, the Green Bay Packers," and that hasn't happened at all. They haven't really even been a true Super Bowl contender in a while since then.
Yeah, it's crazy that you have Aaron Rodgers and you're not going to the Super Bowl every other year. It is interesting. It seems like McCarthy was like, all right, Aaron, I'm going to help you develop as a man and, become a better person. And Aaron Rodgers was like, what? Just figure out a play and let me throw the football.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron has any interest in becoming a better person. He kind of just, he is who he is. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's always going to be kind of a jerk. That's just who Aaron Rodgers is. That's his persona. But that doesn't mean you got to change that. Just like he said, I agree. I don't know, there's been some stuff said on both sides, if this is actually true or not. Who's actually saying this stuff, who's actually telling this stuff, who are the sources in this. So there's been a lot of questions brought up about this stuff with the Packers, and not just from the Bleacher Report article, but from like many stories that have been told about the Packers. Is it just people like in the organization that don't like Aaron or Mike McCarthy? Because I think that's definitely possible that there are people like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Because right now I'm one of them.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I was following the Russell Wilson contract negotiations, and at least
Oh
for me,
boy.
this came out of nowhere because I was like, Russell Wilson might leave Seattle. I thought he was a lifer there.
Yeah.
Turns out he is a lifer there, but I didn't realize he was so crafty that he was going to threaten to leave to get more money.
Yeah, I don't know if that came from Russell himself or if it was like an agent thing. It seemed like Russell had a big part to play in that, and ever since Russell's kind of become this star in the league, he's really changed his mo and become kind of more of a celebrity quarterback. And I feel like that is part of what pushed him to do something like this. It's crazy though that I was trying to think what like what would the Seahawks even look like without Russell Wilson?
They'd be so bad because he bails them
they'd
out
be
offensively
they'd
all
be
the time.
like they'd finish in like the bottom 10 of the league for sure.
Yeah.
Like
And he's now the highest paid quarterback in the league with a 4-year, $140 million extension.
yeah. It was an interesting extension too because it was just a lot more money up front and a shorter year deal. And so a lot of people were talking about, when Patrick Mahomes, when his time comes, like he's got to make more than that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to break every record we've ever seen.
Both on and off the field.
Speaking of football, was another football league called the AAF, which no longer exists anymore. 8 weeks into the season, they've had to suspend the league and shut it down.
I think a lot of people saw it coming, but at the same time didn't see it coming. Because remember when they first started that first week, we were talking about, oh my gosh, look at their ratings. It's crazy. Like maybe this actually works. We could actually have like a little kind of minor league system for football. And it just went south like real quick. It's like they just didn't have the financial backing. And you talk about the Carolina Hurricanes owner, I think it's Tom Dundon. Yeah, he came in and put up 250 million, and then they were like, "Well, we want more." And it's like, well, like, what have you done since then with the money? Like that money was essentially just to pay off like players. Like
Yeah.
that was just to get them through it, and then they still couldn't do anything after that. And I think a big thing that they've talked about that was kind of the downfall of the league was they were trying to get the NFL to give them practice squad players and guys like that during the season. I understood because like yeah, you kind of want those guys because those are the guys that are really going to have a shot at making the league. I mean, a few players from the AAF have signed deals with the NFL now or are in talks with the NFL teams right now, but I think that they just didn't have the right formula. And like I saw one article done by Bleacher Report actually too that said that the AAF was more of a tech company than a football company at the end of the day, just because of all the things they were trying to do off the field.
Yeah, also, if your league does not have enough funding to last more than 8 games, probably not the right time to launch your league.
That's like, I can't remember a league that stops halfway through the first inaugural season. Like, usually you have enough momentum to get through the first season, and then you crumble in the off season. But,
Yeah,
like, they couldn't even make it.
also interesting, Vince McMahon, did I say his name right? Probably not. But,
McMahon.
no. Very.
Yes.
Where are those letters in there? He's relaunching. He started the XFL the first time. He's relaunching, also mostly of WWE fame. So it could have also been a little bit of I don't know. There could have been some other factors happening if he's coming into the scenario next year because there's definitely not enough room for 2 leagues.
Yeah, no. Definitely not. I've really soured on, and maybe it's just because I haven't experienced enough of these other leagues coming into the play, but I've definitely soured on the idea of another football league. It just seems like, no matter what, the NFL will trump it. And even if that league's trying to work in tandem with the NFL is still going to be like, nah, see ya.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's possible. Like, we'll see what the XFL does, because I know it was really popular when it first got started, but I just don't think it's gonna pan out the way they're hoping it will.
Yep. Well, that is all our NFL updates. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with the NBA playoffs.
All right, welcome back to the Flat Sorts podcast. Now we're getting into the main event. If you had a fight card or something, this is the main event for the Flat Sports podcast. It is the NBA playoffs. We previewed the playoffs, and I'd like to say our predictions have not gone all according to plan, Danny.
I think overall they've actually gone pretty well, but
It's been pretty smooth, but like,
after game one, I was a little nervous.
well, it was like, oh yeah, this team can't get a game on them, and then they win game one, and it's like, well, all right, shows how much we know. But we're gonna walk you through all of this, get you through it. First off, we're gonna start with the Celtics and the Pacers series. Celtics, the first team to actually make it out of the first round, although a lot of people say they didn't look all that good in this series, even though they swept the Pacers.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a sweep, but not a sweep like the Bucks are about to get, where they destroyed the other team. Kind of a sweep where it was like, well, we won each game by 5 or 10 points and really played a defensive slog of a matchup against a team that literally cannot score in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying right now that they still don't know who this Celtics team is, and people have been watching to kind of wait and see, when are some of these, other pieces around Kyrie Irving going to like handle the load, uh, you know, share the load, Frodo Irving.
Share the load.
Share the load, Frodo. So, I mean, what do you think so far? Because it has been a lot of Kyrie. I know they kind of picked him up, I think, in Game 3. But what have you kind of seen the Celtics team? Do you think they have an identity right now outside of Kyrie?
I mean, the team's a really good defensive team, and I think that's absolutely a big part of the identity. The Kyrie and Horford pick and roll is really, really good. And that's probably the number one offensive weapon they have, is that play, and then passing it out to Brown or Tatum on the wing. So offensively, still a little bit muddled, but the offense under Brad Stevens has always been a little muddled since he's been there.
Which is really weird, because like, he's a great coach and he's got great players, but it's really weird to see like this offense struggling at times to like get stuff going in the half court. Looking at some of these plus minuses, Kyrie Irving actually a -10 against the Pacers, and Jaylen Brown a -16. But when you got Marcus Morris coming off the bench with a +18 and 18 points, 8 rebounds, that'll help.
Yeah, so some interesting stats that have come out that I've been looking at. Did you know Kyrie Irving is actually the number one hustle player on the Celtics?
That shocks me.
And that includes
Is that
the regular
because,
season.
so that includes when Marcus Smart is actually playing?
Yeah, he's number one in loose balls, recovered, number two in deflections, and number three, I think, in like diving on the floor for the ball.
Does he have like an assistant that like dives on the ball dives on the floor and like gets it for him, and that just counts for Kyrie? Because I don't believe that. I mean, I don't believe it, but all right.
Another interesting stat in the playoffs so far: the Celtics are 29.8 points better per 100 possessions with Horford on the floor.
That doesn't surprise me. I really like Al Horford's game. I think he's perfect for the playoffs. During the regular season, it's like, what is he going to do out there, during the regular season? But in the playoffs, like, his, like, mental game and his toughness, his defensive versatility, and what he does offensively. I mean, look at his stat line from the Game 4 win over the Pacers: 14 points, 5 assists, 12 rebounds. Like that's what you want right there at Al Horford, to kind of being that facilitator for the offense. So I like where they're heading. But do you feel right now, as a Celtics fan yourself, Danny, be honest, do you feel more confident in an Eastern Conference semifinals against, potentially either the Milwaukee Bucks or the Detroit Pistons? We don't know who's going to win that series yet.
I know I'm really waiting in suspense, but I feel confident seeing the Celtics come in and handle business. And here's what I will say. Here's two players that this playoffs has reminded me why did I feel differently about them. Number one, why did I doubt Kyrie Irving? And number two, why did I trust Russell Westbrook? But focusing on Irving, yeah, I think he's one of the top 5 or 6 playoff guys in the league. So yeah. I have faith that the Bucks series will probably go 6, maybe 7.
As a former Cleveland Cavaliers fan myself during those Kyrie Irving days, I'll tell you what, like, the dude knows how to show up in the playoffs and just go out there and get buckets.
Yeah.
So. All right, moving on to another series that played last night, the Warriors and the Clippers. Outside of that miraculous comeback, the 31-point comeback earlier this series, the Warriors have handled business. And last night it was close. It was very close. But when you have Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson combining for 65 points, I feel really good about your chances. Yeah, like Klay Thompson was just on fire last night.
He said that he went into the Pacific Ocean on Saturday to help clear his mind, and that's why he scored 32 points.
Yeah, but how that story started was he was on the beach playing beach volleyball with Jonas Jerebko, one of his teammates, and then just like looked at the ocean, was like, all right, I'm going to go jump in to clear my head. Maybe he, like, it was actually like a radioactive bay or something, and he just like got like superpowers from it, because like he looked like the regular Klay Thompson last night. It was good to see.
He had to go recharge.
Yeah, had to go recharge those superpowers that had been fading away. Really interesting for me is this guy, Andrew Bogut, had been out of the league, hadn't even been on a team. He's a little older. We remember him from, some of those early Warrior championships before Kevin Durant got there. And they bring him in, and he's starting now. Like, we thought, oh, maybe he'll just be like a guy on the bench, but now he's starting for them. 8 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Like, he's doing like some pseudo Al Horford things out there again for the Warriors, and I think that's a big factor going forward in the playoffs, especially if they face some teams with some bigger guys, just to have that big body out there, because Looney had a great game before this, I think in Game 3, but it's nice to see, like, the Warriors. Actually, it was not nice to see. It's actually very painful to see that the Warriors have a competent big man, even with DeMarcus Cousins out.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the biggest events in the series, other than the comeback, was that Boogie Cousins is done for the playoffs, which is one of those, if a team had to lose one of their stars and it wasn't going to matter, the Warriors is that team, and Boogie Cousins is that player.
Yeah. But here's something I want to know: are you buying or selling that Boogie Cousins being out takes away some of the Warriors' motivation? Because one of the hear me out here. Because one of the things coming into the season was getting a ring for Boogie, like having that guy on the team that had never been in the playoffs, had never won an NBA championship, and kind of helping him along to get there. And now, like, what is the Warriors' motivation besides?
He'll still get a ring.
Yeah, I mean, he'll still get a ring, but he won't be playing.
They got to do it for Bogut.
Do it for Bogut. Oh my gosh, dude's fine. He's fine. I can't believe he was still able to like suit up for a basketball game. It's been a while for him. Um, Going back to that because we didn't get a chance to talk about the 31-point comeback. I was sitting in this very room where I'm recording this podcast right now, watching the game, and I was like, "All right, I'm going to bed because why in the world would I stay up another hour to watch the rest of this game?"
I did the same thing.
Like, why would you not? Why would you not? Like, what reason did you have to stay up for that game? Um, and this is what we were talking about in the last podcast. We were like, can the Clippers like make it interesting, get a game? And I'm fine if the Clippers lose 4-1 now because they made it interesting enough for me. You know,
They did, and so many interesting stats came out of this that I would have never bothered to look up if if this game hadn't happened. But the Clippers bench with Williams and Harrell is the most dangerous pick and roll in the entire league, according to Zach Lowe of ESPN, basketball reporting god. Um,
yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And Doc Rivers, I think, is the coach with the most 20-point postseason comebacks of any coach in the league.
The coach with the mostest.
Yeah.
I also want to give you a little shout out here. Your boy Kevin Durant got ejected in the first game of the playoffs, which you correctly said earlier that he would.
I was even right. That was their whole strategy. They were like, Patrick Beverley, just go get Durant ejected.
I love the Patrick Beverley, Kevin Durant, like, back and forth in this playoffs. Like, obviously, Beverley is way overmatched, but like,
Yeah.
I love the back and forth. I love how he just doesn't back down, and we've seen it before with him with Russell Westbrook. Remember, he's the one that got Russell Westbrook injured and out for the rest of the playoffs all those years ago when Kevin Durant was also on the Thunder. And so there's some bad blood there too between the two. I feel like Patrick Beverley doesn't have any friends in the league. He like came into the league and he was like hashtag no new friends, and he has succeeded in that.
Does this remind you of what Doc Rivers did, putting Rondo on LeBron all those years ago?
Oh, it's the same thing. It's just who's the most agitating player on my team, and somehow Doc always has that guy. He always has that guy on the team, and it's always this this 6'2" point guard who can do some other things, but his best attribute is being an agitator. So you have that. Speaking of getting a little nervous after the first game, moving on to this next series, the Raptors have won 3 games in a row, but that was after the Magic had won Game 1 against the Raptors in Toronto. I mean, you had to be shocked by that.
I was, and after making fun of every player on the Orlando Magic roster, I'd feel especially bad.
I mean, it was just a major shock to see the Magic get that Game 1, especially in Toronto. I mean, and sometimes you could see like a little Game 1 letdown and stuff, but I mean, just looking at this Magic roster, I was interested in some of the young guys like Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, seeing how they would do in the playoffs and stuff. But we said last week, like I don't think the Raptors will have any trouble with them, and they did early on, and but I think that was it because like look at it, at the end of the day, it's DJ Augustine, Michael Carter Williams, Nikola Vucevic, who are they're NBA players, but
Yeah, and I think there were 2 major outliers in the first game, which was the Magic shot almost 50% from 3, and then Kyle Lowry pulled the most classic of Kyle Lowry playoff games and scored 0 points, going 0 for 7 in that first game. Like, so classic.
that's my problem with the Raptors. Like, is Kyle Lowry actually going to be there when they need him to be? Like, because so far, like, he has not proven on a consistent basis that he can actually show up for a playoff series.
Yeah, that's probably going to be his thing, but they've got Kawhi Leonard, they've got Siakam, both who have looked really good in this series. Kawhi, who looks like he's rounding back into form still, but like in a good way, like defensively is looking really good in these games 3 and 4.
I will say, I watched Game 4 last night, and Kawhi looked great. And with Pascal Siakam playing the way he is as well, they've got enough. But if they want to get to the NBA Finals in the future, we're looking down the road. Even if they want to get past the next round, I think against most likely the 76ers, they're gonna have to have Kyle Lowry come out there and perform.
Yeah, at least 5 points. You know,
5 points. That's all we're asking for. It's not a whole lot, Kyle. Come on, man.
Leonard's stat line from last night: 34, 6, 2, 2, and 2. What are all the twos? What is that stat line even? I've never seen that many numbers in the stat line.
That many twos?
Yeah, what are those? Break it down.
The 2 is the number that comes after 1, my friend. But yeah, I think it's a good sign for the Raptors. I think that Game 1 is just an anomaly, and we'll forget about it. Maybe Magic fans will hold on to it for another year as their one shining moment. But I think that's about the extent of it.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the next series we're going to talk about. We're going to look at the Trailblazers Thunder series, which for my money has been the most interesting series in the NBA so far. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree, and it's funny because it's the exact repeat of Oklahoma City's series last year against Utah.
But here's the thing, going into it, we thought it was going to be a repeat of Portland's series last year against the Pelicans, where they're the high seed, they have home court advantage, and they almost get swept. But I think, a lot of people were talking about in the offseason, and have been talking about for a while, Lillard and McCollum, it just isn't going to work. Break these guys up. Maybe Terry Stotts isn't the right guy to coach. They have a lot of success in the regular season, but they just can't do it in the playoffs. Right now, honestly, I could see this team getting to the finals.
Well, maybe the conference finals.
The conference finals. Yes,
okay.
The conference finals. Because, look, I think they'll finish off the Thunder. If they could steal a game from Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma City, I think they can go back to Portland, win in Game 5, and get the series done with, and move on. After that, you're dealing with either the Denver Nuggets or the San Antonio Spurs. I feel pretty good that they can compete with either of those teams. I think the Spurs are playing really well right now. So I think that would be a more interesting series. I think they would beat the Nuggets right now. It's just you talk about, who are Lillard and McCollum going to defend, but are you talking about the flip side, who's going to defend Lillard and McCollum? Because that's been the Thunder's problem so far through the series is last night they combined for, 51 points?
Yeah, so, and the past couple postseasons, CJ McCollum and Lillard, I feel like the thing has been, they're great, but they can't do this for 7 straight games. And this year it looks like they can just put up 50 or 60 combined for 7 straight games if they want to.
Yeah. But also I like the team, I like the players they have around them. It's very, very similar to Houston last year, if you ask me. Of having 2 guards like Chris Paul and James Harden, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and then those are the guys that run your offense, and then you have the wings, guys like Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, who are long, versatile, can defend, can rebound, can shoot the 3. And they don't have the Clint Capella big man right now. They have Enes Kanter, which is a far cry from a Clint Capella, but it's still very, very similar to kind of those Rockets teams in having the guards. So if you're telling me they can't do it, look at the Rockets team from last year and tell me what's the big difference? Like, why can't they do it? And so if they can get San Antonio or Denver in the next series, which they, you know, I think they could beat either one of them to get to the finals, and then let's say the Rockets beat the Warriors. Like, this is all hypothetical here, but what if the Rockets beat the Warriors, and then like they're a series against the Rockets away from going to the NBA Finals? I don't know. I'm getting way too ahead of myself. This is just stuff I was thinking about while I was watching this game last night. But you mentioned earlier a guy that you have been reminded never to trust, and that's Russell Westbrook.
Why is he so bad? But also, why is the team so bad? The first two games, they went 10 for 61 from three, which is just horrid. But Westbrook also, why can't he do it in the playoffs? It's so frustrating when you watch this team and you're like, okay, I think they figured it out, and then no, they didn't.
No, not even close. Yeah, like the game before, like Russell had finally like gotten it together and he was being like the Russell Westbrook that we all expect, and then he comes back in this game and just not good. 5 of 21. Like, it was looking like the NBA All-Star game all over again, where Russell Westbrook couldn't hit anything, but he kept taking shots. And the thing right now is about this team is Paul George is playing with like one arm. And he went for 32 and 10 last night. Like, this guy is barely healthy, and he's still playing better than the rest of the team.
Yep.
Like, I didn't expect the Thunder to, like, win and get to the NBA Finals, but I expected them to beat Portland.
So what do you think this means? Coaching changes? Roster changes?
I don't know, because I don't know how much they can do with the roster right now the way it is. I mean, they've got a lot of money tied up in Westbrook, George, Adams. This offseason just bringing in Nerlens Noel felt like a big coup for them, and obviously, like, Noel hasn't really done anything for them. But they don't have any depth. Like, last night, Raymond Felton went off for 8 points in 6 minutes. Guess how much he finished with? 8 points. Like, they just don't have any depth. I love Dennis Schroeder, but they've got money tied up in him as well. He's got 17 points. He had 17 points the other night. He's a great sixth man. Some say he's the best sixth man the Thunder have had since James Harden himself. I would agree with that, because I didn't think Reggie Jackson was that good. But yeah, right now I don't know what you can do if you're the Thunder. I guess just hope for better health next year and hope that Russell Westbrook finds some way to be semi-efficient and go from there.
Yeah, I do love watching these teams play when the Thunder are trying to like make a run or a comeback. Lillard or McCollum are just like, yeah, I don't think so, and just drain like some absurd 3-point shot. It's really fun to watch that.
So, do you think the Trailblazers finish off this series?
Yeah, I do. After seeing how Oklahoma City is playing the exact same game plan as last year, yeah, I think so.
I think you're right there. All right. So moving on to the next series, we are going to my Milwaukee Bucks. And by far the most entertaining series of the NBA playoffs. No, not at all. I was telling Danny before we jumped on that I think the Bucks series might be the series I've watched the least of, mainly because I like turned it on and I'm just like, all right, well, this is over already. Like, this has just not been close at all. And the other night in Game 3, Giannis only had 14 points, 10 rebounds. But what else did he need to do? Like, Blake Griffin was supposed to be out for the whole series, and he came back for Game 3 and scored a game-high 27 points, but they still got blown out.
Yeah, this might be the worst series of all time. That's
a bold statement. Bad. It's a bold statement. I don't know about all time, but I would agree it is a pretty bad series. They play, tonight is Monday. They played 8 o'clock. I can guarantee you I will not be watching the full game. I might watch a couple plays at the beginning or the end, and that's about it. I'll catch the highlights later.
I think we should move on. I have nothing to say about this.
It is exciting because, contrary to popular belief, this Bucks team has been on the rise for the past couple of years, but this will finally be a playoff series win for them. Like they've been waiting and waiting and waiting to get this playoff series win. They came close against the Raptors a couple of years ago. Then last year with the Celtics, we thought, all right, this is our chance. No Kyrie, we can do it. Lost that one, but it was closer than the 76ers got to the Celtics, so I'll just point that out. It is a big moment for Milwaukee, just not a very interesting one overall. How about the Rockets and the Jazz? Because I will like take my like mouthful of whatever and say I was wrong about this series. I thought the Rockets and the Jazz was actually going to be a really good series. I thought this is going to like doom the Rockets because they're actually going to play a competitive Jazz team in the first round and then have to turn around and play the Warriors. But right now, it looks like the Clippers were a tougher opponent for the Warriors than the Jazz were for the Rockets.
I know. I've been loving watching Rubio try and guard Harden. That's been a highlight for me.
Well, they've tried the same defensive strategy that the Bucks play when they play the Rockets, which is Eric Bledsoe just stands on his left side and forces him to go right. And he's a good player, guys. He'll figure it out. He's got two hands. He knows how to go the other way. And that's really what it's all been. It's been a crazy series for me. I thought the Jazz were really going to challenge the Rockets, but they haven't. Like look at this. Look at the score lines in this. Game 1, 122-90. Game 2, 118-98. And then the Jazz finally got close in Game 3 when James Harden couldn't hit a shot to save his life, and they still lost.
I know. He started 0 for 15. If you can't win that game, you're probably not winning a game.
Exactly. If you can't beat the Rockets when James Harden can't even make a shot, then how are you going to win a game at all? Because that's only going to last for one game.
Exactly.
You're not going to get lucky 2 times in a row.
Not to brag, but this series has been kind of what I thought it was. I just thought Harden and Paul were too much star power for a Utah team that just didn't have a big name superstar ready to go. So
yeah, but you didn't think it was going to be a sweep, did you?
I thought it'd be like 5 games. So
I thought at least 5 games, but yeah, no, this has been a shock. Probably, I would say the Trailblazers Thunder has been the most interesting basketball-wise, but I think the 76ers and the Nets has been the most interesting storyline-wise. Because Brooklyn got that Game 1 win against the 76ers, and like the Sixers just didn't look like they were on the same planet as far as competing against the Brooklyn Nets. In that first game, Joel Embiid did not look healthy, and it just didn't look like the team was really there. And D'Angelo Russell had a great game performance in that game. You have some great players around them, but then the Sixers start picking things up in this series. But you've also had some of these off the court storylines like Jared Dudley.
Who thought storyline?
Who thought we'd be talking about Jared Dudley in a series that has Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, D'Angelo Russell? Like, Jared Dudley would be like the 20th guy I thought we'd be talking about in this series.
I'll say this, he's been willing to sacrifice himself for the team.
It's like, yeah, he is the sacrificial, like, let me distract the 76ers and see what happens from there.
He's just like, who do we need to get ejected this game? Butler? Okay, I got it. I'm on this.
He has been your Patrick Beverley, essentially.
Yeah.
The Sixers seem like they've kind of hit a gear here. Ben Simmons has looked better ever since Jared Dudley called him out and said he was quote he was good in the fast in transition, but he was what average in the half
In
court.
half court. Yep.
Yeah.
You don't want
I
to
think
say that.
Yeah, I think he's proven that wrong. But what are your takes on this series so far? Actually, for basketball stuff on the court.
Well, well, the most interesting thing for me was Embiid when he didn't play in game two. I was like, oh, the Nets might actually have a shot if Embiid is not healthy, because that really would change the whole series for me. And then he comes back in game. I guess he was out in game three. Comes back in game four though and puts up 31, 16, and 7. So
Yeah.
if he's hurt and he can still put those numbers up, then I'm okay with this team.
Yeah, I think this team is going to have its ups and downs because that's just the nature of the roster. When you have guys like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Jimmy Butler, and Tobias Harris for that matter, and JJ Redick for that matter, just not really knowing how to play off each other yet. JJ Redick, I think he finally had a good game the other night when Joel Embiid was out. So they need JJ Redick to be hitting shots, because if he's not hitting shots, what value does he provide on the court?
Does it feel to you like one of these starting five should come off the bench? Like Butler or Harris should be leading the second unit?
No, because I don't think the Sixers have a second unit. I'm serious. Like, who's the second unit? Like, TJ McConnell and Mike Scott? Love Mike Scott.
TJ.
UVA proud right there with Mike Scott. And Boban, like Jonathan Simmons.
Yeah, that's fair.
Who are you putting in the starting lineup, and who are you taking out?
Yeah, that's fair. I guess.
Are you thinking Jimmy?
I'm just saying, like, when they are playing against an actual better team, where when they do have to take the starters out, they're gonna get destroyed. It might be good to be staggering these guys a bit more.
See, this has been their plan all along with this team. Like, they knew they had no depth, and so when they got to the playoffs time, they could shrink their rotation down to like 7 guys, and rotate some guys, like rotate Butler out for a little bit, rotate Simmons out, rotate Embiid out, rotate Harris out, and still play with 2 or 3 stars at the least out on the court at the same time. And they're just going to try and beat you on talent alone. Because I'll tell you what, right now, Brett Brown is not coaching this team to any, like, coach wins, I would call him.
Yeah, that might be to their demise against Toronto. But
yeah.
I have been impressed with the Nets, though. D'Angelo Russell, Dinwiddie, like, these guys have looked great.
They're just a super fun team to watch. And, like, if I was, like, an NBA star right now, like, I would watch this team. Like, if I'm coming up in free agency, I would watch this team because it's a fun team to play on. You've got a young group of guards. You've got D'Angelo Russell, Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, all really young, talented guards. Could shoot the three, do a couple different things. You've got Jarrett Allen, who's one of the best rim protectors in the league. You've got a great coach in Kenny Atkinson, who doesn't get enough credit for what he's done there. And they play a fun style of basketball where you're just getting up and down the court, you're shooting a lot of threes. It's a fun style of basketball. I think this team is going to be one of those teams that can take another leap next year. I just think if I'm a star right now, like, and I'm looking around the NBA, like, I'm looking at this Nets team. Like, forget the Knicks. Why do you want to go to the Knicks? The Knicks never do anything. Like, go to the Nets. The Nets have players. What do the Knicks have? The Knicks don't have anyone.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to our last and most exciting series of the playoffs, the Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. Before this started, we both thought this was gonna probably be going 6 or 7 games. It's definitely going 6, probably 7. And it's not the most enjoyable styles of basketball to watch, but it is still a fun series, I think.
We picked different teams in this series. I think you picked the
We
Nuggets.
did. I picked the Spurs
Oh, you picked the
in
okay.
6 or 7, and you picked the Nuggets in 7.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I picked the Nuggets because I didn't want to be like the NBA hipster that's like, oh, the Nuggets can't win. And maybe I should have just been like the NBA hipster and said the Nuggets can't win. Because I'm leaning heavily towards the Spurs in this playoff series. Is that how you still feel?
I'm definitely leaning towards the Spurs. I think a lot of it depends on Derek White and if he can show up the way he did in Game 2.
Oh my gosh. Talking about a guy, like, that guy was in the G League. And Pop just finds these guys. Like, when he was coming out, I remember, like, coming out, he went to Colorado for only a couple of years because I think someone said he was playing Division II basketball before that. Um, and, like, they came out and Pop said that he didn't know who he was. And I think he knows who he is now.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, this series is tied up at 2-2 going into Game 5 on Tuesday night, um, and we'll shift the series. The series will shift back to Denver, and they've been alternating games right now. We thought like this would be one of those series where, both teams are just so good at home that they would all just win their home games.
Yeah, and that's not been the case.
No, they split them so far, and I kind of had a feeling that might happen because when you're so good at home, like when two teams are so good at home in the playoff or heading into the playoffs, like weird stuff's gonna happen because it just does. That's how the NBA works. Um, but would you agree so far? Derek White's probably been their best player.
Yeah, I mean, he's been streaky, but when he's good, he's definitely their best player
I
so
mean,
far.
has DeRozan not been streaky?
He's been streaky, but you'll still get a 19-20 from DeRozan
Yeah,
every night.
yeah. I just like every time I think about DeRozan, I think about those Raptors teams in the playoffs the past couple of years that just can't get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that can't all be on Dwayne Casey when he was the coach in Toronto. That can't all
Yeah.
be on Kyle Lowry. Like DeMar was a part of that. If you're the star of the team, you're a part of that, man.
Yeah. One of the most interesting things about the series is I feel like it's so atypical. The Spurs shoot more mid-range than any team in the league right now, and DeMar DeRozan actually doesn't even shoot threes anymore. And then the Nuggets
Good.
run everything through a big man center for their essentially to initiate the offense. This is not what we're seeing from any other teams in the league right now.
I think the most you're absolutely right, but I think the most disappointing part of this series has been Jamal Murray. Like this is the time that Murray needed to take that next step and do what Derek White's doing pretty much and be like step up, have that breakout, and they just haven't seen it at Murray. And so some people are concerned about their future. I really like the future for this Nuggets team. Um, and like other people were saying, like, well, what if this Nuggets team was like in the Trailblazers' shoes and they're like the 3 seed and everyone's like, whatever about them. I think we'd be viewing them very differently than we are right now. It just seems like they're too high. This is too high for them. They did too well in the regular season. Like they needed to lose a lot more games during the regular season instead of competing to be the 1 seed with the Warriors. But right now, I do like. I think Pop is just he's gonna find a way to win this series. I am changing my pick. I'm going to the Spurs now.
Wow. I'm going to the Nuggets then.
Dang it, Danny. Now the Nuggets are gonna win. All right. Well, any other playoff takes? I did want to talk a little bit about the Lakers and their situation right now with Magic Johnson.
Sure, let's do that.
Last week, or the last time we recorded, that came out like right after we finished recording, pretty much. So we didn't get a good chance to talk about that. But and Luke Walton also getting fired and then hired within 3 days, pretty much.
I know, it's like he might have known it was coming and had a little plan all along.
Well, I think the Kings actually knew that Luke Walton was going to get fired, and they're like, "All right, Dave Yeager, get out of here. We want Luke Walton."
They were like, "Hey, Luke, we heard you're getting fired," and he was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, come work for us."
Luke, you're getting fired. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that'd be a great fit for Luke because that's a young team. Those are the kind of players that he needs to work with. When the Lakers are going in that young direction, it was perfect for him. So I think this is a good fit for him yet again. But with Magic Johnson out, do you think the Lakers have any realistic shot of landing another star this offseason?
Oh yeah, it is funny. We talked last time about the Magic Johnson press conference, but what we didn't really get into is like, I guess this is Rob Pelinka's show now. Like, is he the one that's gonna be crafting this team through the draft and free agency? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, that's what, according to Ramona Shelburne from ESPN, that's what she said. Like, Rob Pelinka is going to step into that main role right now. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have it for the long term, but evidently Jeannie Buss is a big fan of Rob Pelinka, and it scares me, being a LeBron guy, that Rob Pelinka is going to be the guy that has the keys to the franchise. Because it seems like he's going to have more power now without Magic Johnson there. And it wouldn't bother me as much if Pelinka had better relationships with people in the league, but he doesn't. A lot of people don't like Rob Pelinka. He's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So it does worry me a little bit. I am a fan of the head coaching options they're looking at right now. So they're looking at Ty Lue and Monty Williams. You have a smile on your face, but not as much Ty Lue, but I do like Monty Williams. I think he deserves a chance as a head coach.
Just run it back with Ty Lue again. If he got LeBron to the finals with no talent, then maybe he can do it again.
Hey, he did it. He did it like how many years in a row? He did it. So
he did.
He even won one. But yeah, I'm not as big on Ty Lue, but I think things are kind of trending more towards Monty Williams, and I think I really like the idea of him having another chance with the Lakers. Because I really thought, his time with the Pelicans, it wasn't his fault, really. It was more and I think we can see that now, that it was more on the Pelicans for not getting the right players into the franchise to surround Anthony Davis than it was Monty Williams. But I'm still at this point really concerned. I don't think that it's looking too optimistically for the Lakers to get another star.
Yeah, it'll be great when they get Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving all on the same team with LeBron.
That's the plan. I'm switching to pessimistic Preston because usually that means something good happens. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's all the time we have for the NBA. We'll be right back with our Tim Tebow update. We actually have a big Elon update this week, so we will be right back with all that.
All right, guys, we are back after yet another Brita water filter commercial break. Good. We've got Tim Tebow news, and it's big news. Preston,
Front page of ESPN, big.
You heard about this without me even telling you.
I know. Usually you have to dive pretty deep to find a Tim Tebow update for the week, but this one just like boom, it's there. Front page ESPN.
Tim Tebow reveals he hasn't had a soda in 16 years.
Wow. I want to ask you, because you don't drink a lot of soda, if any.
I don't.
When's the last time you drank a soda?
Oh, man. I will indulge in a ginger ale maybe once a year, and that's about it.
Okay. All right. So it's been a good long while.
Yeah, but I've probably had under 100 sodas in my lifetime.
Wow. That's impressive. I drank a lot of soda going into my junior year of college, but then I kind of I cut it out, especially my freshman year. You can remember we had the soda can tower in my dorm room.
Yeah.
Lots of Mountain Dew, lots of Coke, lots of all that stuff. But I kind of switched over to tea after that,
Snapple.
a Snapple and green tea. That's kind of my jam now. Um, but I would say like I never buy soda anymore. Like I won't buy it and bring it home, like in like the 12 packs or whatever. I don't do that, but I might get one with like a meal when I'm out. That's about the extent of it.
Gotcha.
So I'm not Tim Tebow. I'll never be Tim Tebow.
You'll never. One day you might learn how to make money while you sleep the Tim Tebow way.
One day. He's also been hasn't been great to start the season with Syracuse, the Mets AAA affiliate, but we're holding out hope that maybe he'll get past this. Just keep on drinking soda.
The comeback kid, I believe in him.
Big Elon update, Danny.
We do. We have a new men's basketball coach at Elon, and his name is Mike.
What?
Mike Shraje.
No, not even close. Mike Schrage.
Wow, I nailed it.
I think it's like Shraggy. Maybe it's Shraggy. it's either one of those. It's not Shraje, that's for sure. Yeah, he comes from Ohio State, where he was an assistant coach there at the program. He's also worked at some other pretty big programs like Duke, and he's kind of been a basketball lifer. He's worked at some big programs. So I think it's a good hire, and hopefully
that feels like a big hire. Ohio State and Duke to Elon.
Yeah, he's also worked at some other places for some other good coaches. I'm trying to remember like all the places he's been.
He's at Stanford also.
Stanford, okay. Butler, he worked at Butler, so that was good.
Yeah, those are some prestigious basketball schools. Why is he coming to Elon?
Oh, I mean, he was only an assistant coach. He also was, I think he assisted Bob Knight.
Gotcha.
At Indiana. So, yeah, like pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful this will get the program trending back up in the right direction. It just hasn't been the same ever since the Jack Eisenbarger days and Sebastian Koch, Lucas Troutman.
Yeah, our listeners know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're good. They're good guys too. They were our hallmates for 2 years. For 2 years, we lived across the hall from them. Yeah. Anyway, you got a wreck of the week?
I do. There's an article with Doc Rivers about the Clippers. He says, "We don't die. We're like roaches." So if that doesn't make you want to read an in-depth feature on Doc Rivers, I don't know what will.
I mean, it's fitting. That 31 point comeback they had. Instagram updates. We got Dirk. We've got Wade. Had their retirements since the last time we recorded. Some touching stuff there if you really want to get a good cry on before the end of the day. Kawhi Leonard, speaking of NBA free agency earlier, told Serge Ibaka he doesn't know if he's returning to the Raptors, and this surprises me not one bit.
It's really funny too because it's like a cooking style like YouTube show that Serge Ibaka is hosting.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a while. Yeah,
and he's just like, "So, are you coming back?" And Kawhi's like, "I don't know," and he's like, "Well, you should." It's kind of awkward, but it's funny.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the cooking show, it's actually pretty good. Like, Serge Ibaka's got some talent off the court too.
You learned some good recipes on there.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, we had Doc Rivers apparently just carries $2,000 in cash in his pocket all the time because he dropped it on the street in San Fran and someone picked it up and gave it back to him. So that's really funny. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, I guess, is looking a little not in football shape. And reporters asked him about it, and he said he's got a lot of kids, and they've had a lot of birthdays, so he's been indulging in a lot of birthday cake.
Fitz magic, man. And speaking of magicians and magic, Lonzo, he was on what was it House of Highlights?
I think it was, yeah.
House of Highlights, and they had a magician come on, and he was just blown away by this magician that came on. So
He
good
was.
stuff there. All right, time to cap off the show, Danny. What do we got?
Yes, 60-second roundup. Oh, man. What do you think? Should we stick playoff themed?
Absolutely, we should go playoff themed. Let's go with Jared Dudley and all of that. Yeah.
All right. I'm Jared Dudley and all of that. All right. I am starting the timer. Jimmy Butler dribbles up the court. He's driving in for a layup right now.
Jared Dudley shifts over on defense to cover Jimmy Butler as he goes to the hoop and pantses him. Ron Artest Meta World Peace style on Paul Pierce.
Jimmy Butler is not happy as he throws his basketball at Jared Dudley's head and tells his personal trainer to stand up for the game.
Jared Dudley responds by also going over to Ben Simmons and poking him in the eye.
Wow. Ben Simmons grabs Dudley and they tumble into the stands.
Jared Dudley gets out of the stands and grabs a fan's drink and throws it at Joel Embiid.
The refs turn around and eject Embiid, Butler, and Simmons, leading the Nets to their second win of the series.
But not Jared Dudley. Never eject Jared Dudley. No, he's just the agitator, guys. You don't eject the agitator. All right, that's all the time we got for this week of the Flop Sports Podcast. We will be back next week with more on the NBA playoffs and whatnot, and we'll see if Danny and I actually know what we're talking about this time. So that is all we have for this episode of the Flop Sports Podcast. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye, guys.